Over the course of December since the initial release of Empyrean, DE released a total of 8 hotfixes after the rough launch. This video collects all 8 patch notes into one video, and it is a long one. This goes up until the end of 2019 to end my catch up for the patch notes. Ivara Prime Access launched with 27.0.4, and like usual, players can purchase the packs at the Prime Access page on the Warframe website for instant access to the items, unique Prime accessories, and Platinum. As for those that wish to farm for these items, which are Ivara Prime, Baza Prime, and Axtiletto Prime, the relics are shown on screen. Like usual, with each new Prime access, another Prime sets relics enter the Prime Vault. This time it was the relics for Zephyr Prime, Cronin Prime, and Tiburon Prime. Due to this, the sacrifice for the Steel Meridian is now Equinox Prime Neuroptics, the Arbiters of Hexus sacrifice is the Thibodeau Prime Handle, and the Perrin Sequence sacrifice is now the Wukong Prime Chassis. As for the overall game changes, DE removed the ability for sentient enemies to drop any loot in the key retrieval mission, which is the mission that you play to launch your Railjack. DE stated the following. This mission is intended to be a one and done mission to give you your Railjack Reliquary Key. Plus, they also removed an unnecessary friendship door from the Saturn Grineer asteroid tileset interior. Now in 27.0.5, DE made Dirac and Avionic changes where they removed Dirac from the drop table of Grineer fighters. DE stated that having Grineer fighters be the best source for everything was overkill, and that fighters are now avionic and resource focused. They have increased the drop chance of avionics from Grineer fighters from 10% to 15%, and lastly, Dirac rewarded from scrapping wreckage has been increased by 3 times, so Mark 1 wreckage now rewards 75, Mark 2 wreckage 150, and Mark 3 wreckage gives 225. As for the Railjack specific changes, they follow. This is the long part. The vacuum radius of the Railjack was increased in 27.0.2 to 250 meters, and Archwing's vacuum radius has been increased in the same hotfix to 50 meters. They reduced the hold time to upgrade avionics by 50%, made the number of Fresnels and Null Stones that drop match the number dropped by other rare resources, doubled the amount of the end of mission Railjack commons, and slightly increased the uncommons. They changed the Railjack Form a Crew button to also include select a mission instruction. Railjack avionics, Dirac, and wreckage can now be vacuumed by your Archwing. They changed spawning balance near the end of skirmish missions, so there are fewer cruise ships and fighters as objectives near completion. They reduced the damage multiplier on cruise ship engines, made cruise ships more resilient to Archwing fire, corrected the Zetki Cryophon stats to their intended values that also fixes the Zetki Cryophon not having stronger damage than the base Cryophon. They added Railjack health perks for performing repairs on the Railjack. So it will get 15% of max health for fire and electricity traps, 20% of max health for ruptures, and 30% of max health for hull breaches. DE also stated the following before making the upcoming change. Currently, a hull breach repair grants you 10 seconds of Railjack invulnerability. With the added health perk for hull breaches, we've tweaked the Railjack invulnerability time to grant a benefit to those with haste to compensate. Repairing a hull breach now grants Railjack invulnerability scaled to the amount of time left on the catastrophic failure imminent timer. You can get anywhere from 5 to 15 seconds of Railjack invulnerability based on your hull breach repair urgency. But we now continue. They removed credit caches from the Railjack reward table, and relics have been added in Railjack missions to compensate for that. They've increased the cooldown of the Elite Cosma Flux shield ability, and fixed the shield not actually blocking damage sometimes. They've adjusted hitboxes on the Elite Cosma Flux for improved accuracy. Adjustments were made to the Archwing cannon firing animation for a less janky launch. They removed a certain floating prison, aka the Saturn VI facility found in Railjack missions due to numerous collision and sizing issues. Push to talk was enabled in the Railjack keyboard bindings. Cruise ship eligibility for the simulacrum was removed. Cruise ships now have their own unique enemy marker to differentiate them from other fighters around. Credit caches were removed from the Railjack bonus rewards. Elite Cosmo Flux will now only use their shield ability if facing their target, and they removed the resource collection sound for all items except carbides, copernix, cubic diodes, and pustrals due to a constant stream of that specific sound. The sound is now reserved for important forging resources. Asteroids now drop multiple resources. DE has stated alongside other resources this significantly increases titanium gains. A blinking indication has been added to the Veil Proxima region to indicate the anomaly. The Pennant and Quelor blueprints are now shared pickup, so it's no longer required for all players to manually collect the pickup. And you can also now trade avionics in your dojo or Maru's Bazaar. They've increased the chance to get common and uncommon resources from associated crates on board cruise ships and other points of interest to aid in forging and overall resource required crafting needs. And according to DE, this increase in common and uncommons was achieved by directing rare resources to be space combat only drops and having common and uncommon more dominant on foot. Points of interest and cruise ships that launch ram sleds will now only do so 4 times, which fixes cruise ships launching an infinite amount of ram sleds to knock at your door. They changed the pips of the avionic ranks versus grid ranks to better illustrate between the two. They added house icons to avionic names for clarity. The Railjack name text now has its own separate color slot in the primary text color. Optimizations were made towards performance when piloting the Railjack. They removed scannable lore items from the Investigate Anomaly objective nodes, added visual variety to the asteroids in Saturn Proxima and Veil Proxima. Ram sleds have been given an upgrade the farther you progress into the Railjack star chart that said, be on the lookout for shielded variants that will require precise aim and firepower. They have revised the description for the error message about unable to find an open squad to could not find an open squad. Please try again or launch a new session from your personal Railjack stationed in a dojo's dry dock. They also added improved visuals towards the forge stations in the Railjack to better illustrate when a station is busy. The floor ring located at the base of each station will now appear lit when the station is ready for forging, and will appear unlit when the station is busy, which also fixes the missing progress circle UI for the forge stations to indicate when a station is busy. Enemy cruise ship UI markers will now always be displayed, no matter what the range is, to fix tedious scouring to find that last poor victim. They fixed missing controller key callouts on the Railjack tactical menu. They significantly increased the amount of common resources awarded by the end of mission rewards, and cruise ship projectiles no longer seek after Archwings. They still attempt to fire at you, but they will no longer seek and one-hit KO your Archwing. Alright, now we're on to Railjack specific fixes over the course of these 8 hotfixes, and there is a lot more than the changes, so let's get to it. DE fixed tooltips reporting the wrong engineering intrinsic ranks while trying to craft munitions and doma charges during missions. Clients bypassing pre-death state of cruise ships, causing them to die prematurely. Grineer Railjack boarding parties having some incorrect melee effects, the screen staying dark sometimes after leaving the Railjack customization screen, the camera getting stuck on the reactor room when closing Railjack customization, unlocked Railjack research showing when selecting hide owned not working for Railjack research. The Railjack randomized customization now only selects from owned items, cases of not being able to swap glyphs on the Railjack, the Bendar cluster node missing from Earth Proxima, the fire rate random buff not applying on wreckage Railjack armaments, being able to install multiple Railjack avionics of the same parent type if you have an avionic of a base type equipped, ram sleds not despawning between Railjack missions, being able to board the Archwing slingshot in the Railjack while it's still in hyperspace, the Archwing slingshot breaking for clients if they try to use it immediately after the host, Railjack malfunctions, aka hull breaches, etc., not being cleared on return to the dojo, a lingering fade to black when entering the Railjack from the dry dock, a crash that occurred if you opened a locker before the Master Key Parazon mod triggered, cruise ships not disengaging and warping away after an objective is finished, the Railjack HUD scaling not saving properly, the Orbiter star chart not checking intrinsic requirements for joining Railjack missions, a script error in Railjack points of interest weak points, script errors after a host migration, a bug for clients where the spinning pulse turbine blades animation looks laggy, a bug with electricity effects not appearing after the pulse turbine cable destruction, the left hand clipping on Excalibur's Zato idle animation, a script crash that could occur when a cruise ship spawns, a script crash that could occur from fighter escort spawns, a script crash that could occur when fabricating in the dry dock, a script crash that could occur from Railjack pilots and guns and explosion sounds in Railjack not respecting sound sliders. They tweaked flares and explosion effects of fighters and cruise ships in the Railjack missions, incorrect scale and lighting of a certain prison, missing collision on some cruise ships in Railjack, a crash when attempting to join a player's Railjack from their orbiter, a script crash that could kill your Railjack HUD, and a fix for clients not seeing turret weapon attachment animations in Railjack. DE fixed the Sova Strait node missing from Earth Proxima, attempting to load to the dry dock through the Railjack from the orbiter, sometimes causing infinite loading or a crash, a soft lock when attempting to repair wreckage in someone else's dojo, a crash when attempting to load into a Railjack mission with a friend, a crash when returning to the dry dock from a failed mission, a crash when selecting a shield array Mark II, having to recomplete the Railjack objectives if there is a host migration, getting numerous script errors after completing multiple missions and a host migration occurred, which could result in objectives breaking or not updating after the migration, the pilot intrinsic ramming speed not functioning, missing Railjack health after a host migration occurred, the ramming speed pilot skill not functioning, fixes were made towards infinite Railjack void tunnels when transitioning from a different level, being placed in a weird state if you tried to launch out of the Railjack cannon right after the host did, enemy cruise ships attempting to fire at things that aren't visible, discrepancies with end of mission intrinsics sometimes not displaying correctly, Railjack end of mission results getting stuck on screen if kept open during the return to the dry dock, fixes towards clients not seeing all their gained items on the end of mission screen when returning to the dry dock, not being awarded the Forging Bay resources from your Railjack mission upon returning to the dry dock, some Railjack components not having their upgrades unapplied when the component is removed, shield arrays with a shield redirection buff giving the Railjack an infinite buff, which also removes the resistance buff from the shield redirection buff. Wing turrets still receive the same damage bonus on the next slot. Avionics scrap screen not displaying the ranks of the avionics. The avionics scrap screen perpetually appearing when opening your inventory if you access the scrap screen prior. Turning invisible if you're in another player's Railjack arsenal when the mission started, Railjack walls appearing invisible when a ram sled hits you while you're in the nose turret's augmented reprojection mode, Warframe ability sounds not playing properly when in a Railjack turret, the dry dock platform used to enter the Railjack clipping into it if the Calibero Railjack skin is equipped, base components displaying at rank 0, ability to craft more munitions than you can afford in the payload screen, thus going into the negative values and receiving an error, dredger and outrider projectiles going through collisions, a script error when the forward artillery cannon is charging while someone is transitioning between the Railjack and Archwing, cases of the forward artillery cannon becoming stuck when attempting to face your target, the forward artillery cannon not functioning after a host migration has occurred, fixes were made towards the Railjack appearing very dark, seeing the wrong prompt when attempting to further rank up an already max rank intrinsic, the missing texture in the tactical menu minimap when it's opened while returning to the dry dock. They fixed the duplicate description text for reactors with the chance to automatically seal a breach perk. Outriders being stuck to turrets in their codex diorama, losing your chosen UI theme when piloting a Railjack, client audio replication bugs on the radar tower in the Railjack, fixes were made to the Archwing cannon sounds not properly playing, Octavia abilities not properly ducking ambient and combat music in the Railjack, some overly repetitive side transmissions, they fixed missing transmissions for Galen and asteroid base points of interest, missing descriptions for the chat-linked Railjack resources, a script error when using the Omni tool, a script error when viewing and closing the tactical menu, script error when in the Railjack HUD, a script error when a cruise ship encounter started, and a script error that could occur when reviving after dying in a turret. In 27.0.5, they fixed an exploit where turret encounters would infinitely respawn despite not being intended, nor Grineer having the means to generate infinite turrets yet. They fixed an inability to complete a Railjack mission with a pulse turbine objective if a host migration occurred, due to vulnerable radiators respawning and breaking the objective. Fixes were made towards clients, taking a longer time than normal to load back into a Railjack mission after a host migration has occurred. Armament wreckage not showing their innate bonuses before and after repair, unequipping and equipping Railjack components resulting in their upgrades stacking, a potential script error with the missile platforms in Railjack missions, and a script error when using the Railjack particle RAM. In 27.0.6, they fixed players being blocked from returning to the dry dock after a new update or hotfix or host migration, Incorrect drop tables for all enemies in nodes that give you the Investigate Anomaly objective. They fixed an infinite spawn exploit from the Assassinate Target Blight in Galleon points of interest. The cooldown for him to spawn new minions will now ramp up over time. They made fixes towards cases where the end of mission screen displays more intrinsics earned than you actually did, being in all types of broken states if the cruise ship you're piloting blows up. They fixed a host migration after exposing a radiator in a point of interest, resulting in an inability to complete the mission. The Hyperflux flux capacity buff not properly applying to the railjack. They made a potential fix towards losing railjack objective markers after a host migration, a potential fix for the asteroid hangar cruise ship being stuck, resulting in an inability to complete the mission. They fixed an inability to progress past certain doors in the railjack missile platform interior. The shortcut path not opening up for clients when destroying the core in the missile platform, certain weapons still damaging the Elite Cosma Flux through its shield ability, Rhino's Iron Skin effects applying to the nose wing turrets, seeing tiny asteroids back in your orbiter and dry dock, a script error if an encounter triggered during a host migration, and cruise ships being spawned as Tenno faction, which resulted in numerous issues such as them not attacking you, fighters attacking it instead, and railjack turrets not doing any damage to it, which also fixed a fatal crash related to the bug. In 27.0.7, they fixed maxed ranked Battleforged Railjack avionics trying to subtract 3.4 E plus 38 seconds from the remaining forge cooldown time, railjack engines and reactors displaying as equipped on the wrong part of the railjack, activating the Omni Gear recall twice in succession, resulting in breaking the UI timer, not teleporting you, and an inability to use it again, an unhackable console in the Grineer Galleon railjack base, the end of mission screen popping up, and the second mission not starting when you fail a mission in railjack, returning to dry dock, and then try to start another mission. Fixes were made towards crashes occurring from cruise ships, a crash related to railjack encounters activating during a host migration, a script error if the client is going from dry dock to a session hosted from the orbiter, and they fixed some railjack interior textures appearing more wear and tear than others. And lastly, in 27.0.8, they fixed an inability to enter the Investigate Anomaly objective on the Ruse War field. They fixed the screen turning completely black when inside a black hole, players becoming stuck in an infinite loading tunnel when launching from the orbiter, a common crash that could occur when a cruise ship was destroyed while someone was aboard, a crash when trying to access the payload screen during a host migration or at the start of a mission before it's done loading, non-elite exo fighters unable to spawn in Vale Proxima, and they fixed Gaia elites not dropping avionics. Those were the railjack specific fixes, and the following are the overall fixes compiled in order of the hotfix release, just like I did with the railjack fixes. So starting with 27.0.1, DE fixed not being able to join a railjack mission from the star chart if you had not already completed the node. Intrinsics not showing on the end of mission screen when returning to the dojo from railjack, getting a duplicate avionic pickup when just picking up one in a railjack mission, a script error when starting a mission from your orbiter, proceeding to the dry dock instead, and then starting a railjack mission from the dry dock and skipping the cinematic. The railjack wing turret effects lingering across the game until you restarted. They fixed a crash when on the railjack pilot seating during level transition, when transitioning to missions from the railjack, when failing a railjack mission, when in the intrinsic screen, when in the options menu, when firing the Acrid related to the inbox, and when looking at a Warframe ability video in the arsenal. They fixed a script error when casting Revenant's Enthrall ability, Rhino's Iron Skin ability, Necros' Desecrate, Vauban's Mind Layer, Gauss's Redline, Wisp's Reservoirs, Mirage's Sleight of Hand, Wukong's Primal Fury, and Harrow's Thurible. And then they fixed HC text appearing for waiting for players and leaving soon. For 27.0.2, they fixed a harmless network race condition that could lead to a script error, a number of network race conditions that could break the portal in the Sanctuary Onslaught, a script crash that could occur from Rhino's Iron Skin ability, Energy Shell, Necros' Desecrate, Gauss's Redline, Mirage's Sleight of Hand, Wukong's Cloudwalker, Wisp's Reservoir, enemies using Switch Teleport, fishing, completing a bounty, fighting Vayhek, fighting the Raptor, Vauban's Mind Layer, Disruption Game Mode, Hildren's Balefire, the Grineer Scorpion enemies, dealing damage with the Rakta Dark Dagger when picking up a Convergence Orb, if an Ancient Healer tried to protect certain types of NPCs, and they fixed a script crash that could break specific encounters on the Orb Valis. For 27.0.3, they fixed missing in-world transmissions on the Jupiter Gas City tileset, the Terra Embata Moa mortar attack breaking if a target was destroyed while being targeted, a script crash if an arbitration shield drone tried to protect certain types of NPC, a network race condition that could lead to missing client-side effects in hijack missions, broken HUD elements in hijack missions after a host migration, a script error that would occur if a client joined a fishing party in progress when casting Vault's discharge ability, Nova's molecular prime ability, an error related to Kvatz, a potential script error in the Revenge Sentinel precept, and they fixed a potential script error in the Unleashed Kubrow preset. For 27.0.4, they fixed an inability to play the Kuva Fortress Pago Spy node, being loaded into a completely different mission when attempting to play dynamic mission types, aka Kuva Siphons, Syndicates, etc., when using public matchmaking. DE noted this only occurred if there were more than one of that mission type on that same planet at the same time. They fixed Sulgors being near impossible to tranquilize. They made fixes towards Excalibur Zato's front cloth clipping, which could result in weird triangle cloth textures. They made fixes towards clipping issues with Excalibur Zato's left shoulder fur cloth, fixes towards Syandana's clipping into Titania's Empress skin, the gear wheel not having correct tooltips when switching back and forth between gear and emotes, two different weapon sounds being heard when firing Titania's Dex Pixia with the Hawk Moth skin equipped. They fixed a script error when viewing the Prophet Taker orb in the Codex that could occur when a Nullifier Dome collides with a Kuva Cloud, a script error related to Venari, when your Kuva Lich would attempt to dodge or decoy, numerous Warframe ability castings, a script error when the Molecular Conversion Taxon preset mod deactivates, and when pulled by a Grineer Scorpion. They also fixed an issue with Grineer Ghouls causing a script error, and missing translations in some languages that were being presented in English. 27.0.5, they fixed Octavia using the default songs for clients, Kubrow animations popping and jittering when returning to the incubator after the menu was opened, fixes were made towards Syandana's clipping through Excalibur Zato's skin body, and they fixed script errors when the Eidolon Terrorless screams, when casting numerous Arcwing abilities, and when casting numerous Warframe abilities. For 27.0.6, they fixed an inability to equip the Astera skin and helmet on Avira Prime, the ability to yeet the Jordis Golem with Itzel's Arcline ability, Excalibur Zato's visor appearing to jitter instead of being rigid, missing melee sounds on Zors equipped with a Scythe or Nakana skin, the Arit longsword skin being invisible and having no sounds if he used on a Zor, fixes were made towards elemental effects being misaligned on Zor skins, Trinity Prime having weird tail cloth physics, the Massive Prime Syandana getting stuck on Ivara Prime's skirt cloth, the Ivara Kuval Huntress helmet floating away from Ivara Prime's body, and a script error when clicking an unnecessary replicate button on the Research Dojo pigment screen. For 27.0.7, they fixed the Foreman only when reduced to below 10 rounds on semi-automatic firing mode, Flux Rifle, Kit Guns with a Gaze Chamber type, and Pax Charge Arcane, Imperator Vandal, Cycron, and Larkspur not recharging correctly, the Axamati Prime and Baza Prime having the same Riven disposition as their normal variants, despite the UI displaying their correct disposition of 1, they fixed misplaced meshes in the Corpus Ship Exterminate tileset, and a script error if the host selects a mission when the client is still loading into the squad. Lastly, to finish off the video, there was 27.0.8 where they fixed characters in certain languages such as simplified Chinese not showing correctly in the input fields.